like, I'm glad that no one listens to your podcast. Like that. Like, all right. That's
all right, buddy. Thanks. I'll be the Steve Bannon to your Donald Trump, and we'll sit in the White House and we'll record the pod from there.
Yeah.
It'll be great. Right in the Oval Office.
But can we seriously not just take a fucking second to appreciate the fact that we put people on the goddamn moon?
Action.
That's it. We're here. We're out here.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, welcome back. Thank you for joining us. Salt of the Streets pre-show. This is episode 63 in the pre-show. 4?
64?
Jesus Christ. Oh, all right. I gotcha. 4. Fuck me. All right.
Levelator just opened. That's interesting.
All right. Well, here we are.
Buddy.
Again, thank you again for joining us. I am Donovan.
I'm Colin.
And we are happy to have you here. It has been 3 weeks since we have broadcast a podcast, because I did do that one live stream that we will talk about. Before we get to that, I want to thank everyone again for joining us on our Facebook at Salt of the Streets. We obviously have our Instagram at Salt of the Streets. We have our own personal social medias, our YouTube at Salt of the Streets. We have our own personal social medias. I am at Salt of the Street on Twitter and at alpaca_Donovan on Instagram. He is at Big Bird Offie on both those things. You can find all this stuff saltofthestreets.com. Everything is there. Our website that my wife made. It is fantastic. It's awesome.
So good. How's my hair, by the way?
It's good.
Is it okay?
Yeah, it's short. Right. It's, it's
I was like, the
it's
hat,
tight.
The hat, the glasses, and the headphones is just too much.
You want to get it pulled up on
there?
Let
me pull up the old Facebooks here.
Yeah, so because we took that time off, one of the things that I did was do a live stream about God, I'm not going to get too deep into it because it was like a whole ordeal.
It was an event.
But I did a live stream that I felt like in the end really was just imploring people to follow fact instead of personal information being shared on the internet regarding a shooting that happened, or a police-involved shooting that happened on the 3rd of July in Paulsbo. And it turned into a whole thing where, like, we're bootlickers, and, like, we condone police murder and, like, a whole deal.
As we do,
When again, really my point was that I was just trying to say we should wait for more information to come out before we assume malice on anyone's side. But that is not how it translated. There seemed to be many people who understood what I was getting across, but one particular person who I'm not going to call out as an individual, one particular person who was unable to, I think, truly understand what the point was of what I was getting at. So it was a whole deal. I would implore everyone to go and check it out, and so that you can see how you feel for yourself.
I think you did a very fine job of that, by the way.
And I didn't feel like I said anything that was super divisive,
No,
like
not
I
at
felt
all.
like I was pretty, but I guess that's just me.
It's not you. It's just, it's the times we live in these days,
Yeah.
You can't say shit anymore without somebody blowing up your spot because you're going to offend somebody.
Yeah, and there was like a conflation of events between like something that happened in Paulsbo and then something that happened a few days later in Seattle.
Yeah.
And like for people who don't live here, Paulsbo and Seattle they're like over an hour away from each other. So they're different. And one of them is a city and the other one is a town. Seattle is obviously a big city and Paulsbo is a very small town. So there's just a lot of differences between two events that could happen between those two bodies of police that will change
culturally
the outcome.
Night and day.
Yeah, especially one of the things I thought was interesting is Seattle Police Department has like a horrendous history of police brutality, especially among minorities.
Yeah, it's not great.
That I don't believe is shown in Paulsbo. I did not have an opportunity to go to the Paulsbo Police Department and ask, because I did intend on going and asking whether or not there had ever been an investigation regarding racial bias among police officers in their department, because that's not something I've ever heard of in Paulsbo.
No, it doesn't seem like it would come up a lot.
Right. So like I said, that's just one of the many things that would be different. But it ended up being a very interesting. It was like a 3 or 4 day deal where that guy was just hammering. Like, and I didn't say nothing in the comments. I wasn't in there battling anybody. Like,
no, and some conversations you don't need to have.
Well, and then he ended up having a conversation with someone else, with Casey, where they're arguing back and forth. And then for some reason, he still is like thinking that, I don't know, that like Casey is part of the podcast or something like that. And like, he's like, I'm glad that no one listens to your podcast. Like that. Like, all right, that's
all right, buddy.
Thanks. I mean, first of all, Casey has nothing to do with us, but it was funny.
He's one of those people that he always has an open chair at the table.
Yeah.
Just because he was like the original fanboy.
Casey?
Yeah. So shout out Case Balls.
One of the things that guy said was like, oh, you guys probably can't defend yourselves, and like, so you need the police to do your killing for you. And you know, if I was there, I would have fucking knocked that guy's bitch ass out, or
I'm
something,
sure,
something like that.
That's what they all say.
And then the next day, Case Bulls and I went shooting. So, it was funny. Yeah, no, not at all. I can't defend myself.
Not even a little bit.
Yeah,
with or without the gun, you're a very daunting human being in stature.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting because I mean, again, not to like get personal, but this dude, like, I know him, you know, and so when I was talking to like guys at work about it, I was like, if I saw this dude in person, there's no way he would ever speak to me like this. Like, no. And that's what I really think is shocking about this. Like, this conversation would not happen like this if we were in front of each other. So I think that's very interesting.
God, and that was like, you did that like a week into our time off, right?
Yeah, I think close to a week into it.
And that seems so far away from where we are today.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
Yes.
Time has been, time is relative, right?
Yeah.
And it's definitely felt like way more than like 3 weeks that we've been gone.
Right.
At least for me. It has been a struggle and a half to reach today. And we're here.
Yeah.
And we finally made it.
We did it.
I'm so excited.
I want to thank everyone who's joined us here since we started. So what did you do? Well, before we continue, I needed to tell everyone what you ate today before I got here. A little bit late here today, but what did you eat before I got here today?
I broke my fast with a sandwich.
I had a nice sandwich.
In other words, it was just breakfast sandwich.
Yeah.
The standard, I guess everything I eat now is standard now that I say that. Whether it's a breakfast sandwich, whether it's a breakfast scramble, breakfast casserole, it's all standard for me now.
Standard procedure now.
But I ate food, and it was good.
Yeah.
I had just one minute cup of coffee.
Only one?
Yeah, I'm starting to trying to pull back a little bit.
Interesting.
You know, it's every now and again I have to force myself to step away from caffeine, prove that I can do it, and then I can jump back on the horse.
That's why you didn't go with the triple banger of aminos today.
Definitely.
Word.
Yeah, I've had no aminos today, and it's actually, I don't think I've had any aminos for about a week.
I'm starting to feel a little bit better. Like I'm starting to feel the 3 now. So yeah. I think that the sips of beer, I think that tips it off. So yeah.
Well, and you've been awake since what time this morning?
4:30. I woke up at 3:45 because the baby was crying and I had to pee. And so I went pee and he stopped crying. And I looked at the clock on my way back to the bedroom and it was 3:45 and I was like, all right, so I have an hour before I wake up, so I'm just going to go and lay down, you know. So whether or not I really slept in that last hour is to be debated, but
no.
I've been up since 4:45, which is usually
that's like a normal day for you, right?
I usually get up about 4, but Saturday is the one day a week that I don't wake up at 4. So I'm definitely not used to doing it on a Saturday. I'm used to like being able to sleep in at least a little bit on Saturdays.
That's
like
so
until
funny.
like 8 or something like that, you know.
I was watching a comedy special from Ari Shaffir last night on Netflix, and he was talking about, it was like a 2-parter. First one was themed about children, the other one about adulthood, right? And in one of those, he was talking about how he hates kids and doesn't want kids and all this good stuff. And he starts to compare parents to him. And he goes, you know, once you have a kid, like, you know, what's your weekend life? You know, Sunday, your alarm clock goes off, got to get up, you fucking start yelling at the kids, get your shit ready, let's go, we got to eat, we got to do all this, blah, blah. He's like, you know what my day is like on Sunday? No alarm clock. I wake up all rested and peaceful, and I look at my alarm, or my clock, and it says 10:30. And I just go, I go back to sleep for 2 hours. He's like, as a parent, you never have that ever again until the little fuckers are like 18 and they're off. And thanks to the fact that it's, 2019, getting close to 2020, these kids are going to be living in your house now until they're at least 30. So you've got nothing to look forward to.
No. And he was sick last week too. So he slept like particularly shitty, but
poor bud.
That's all right. I'm like almost done with his room. I got all the mudding done and I did all the sanding yesterday except for like the ceiling. So we're danger close to an actual baby room. I bought all the texture and everything so I could do that this week. Bought those parts for my car. Should be here on Tuesday. Get all that done.
Nice.
So, yeah, that'll be a good deal. We did the Whale of a Run thing today. We went and we just helped direct the race. There's like a 4-mile run and a 1-mile run.
So you're like the guys that'll stand on this corner with the sign that says "Go that way."
Yeah. I was in a vest, and so we kicked it, and had some coffee, and then the baby slept in my jacket for a while because it rained all morning because fucking that's what we get.
So the Whale the Run, that's part of Whaling Days?
Whaling Days, okay. Yeah, which is like a celebration in Silverdale for
whaling?
Something. Not sure what the origin of Whaling Days is. I don't know.
I'm curious.
But it's happened, for as long as I've been around. So
and they do like fireworks and shit too,
yeah, it's a whole deal. Yeah. Last night was the fireworks and it's like a big carnival pretty much. Like there's games and like food and shit that you can go and get, and a fucking parade today that happened.
Oh wow.
Derek Kilmer was in the parade last year. He probably was there again this year. It's like, I think he makes that a point.
I keep missing that dude, man. I see pictures on his Facebook or his Twitter of like him posted up at the Bainbridge Island Ferry Terminal, or like he's around and I never catch him.
Well, Avi, if you still worked at Bennick, it could have been you and I sitting there bullshitting with him because I got him for like 20 minutes all to myself. It was a whole deal.
Yeah, just stab me right in the fucking heart again, Tom.
I was thinking about it the other day and I was like, that was pretty sick.
That is, when you think about it, right, on an objective level.
Yeah.
Your federal representative that represents you got to spend one-on-one time with him.
Yeah, it was rad.
That's awesome.
It was really cool.
That is so cool.
Yeah, I enjoyed that a lot, and I appreciated that he was willing to do something like that,
Dude, I've been thinking about Bennick a lot lately.
Yeah. So I've been thinking... No, that's a personal thing I want to talk to you about. No. Let's see here. So the other day, your wife, she posts shit on her story all the time on like Instagram and whatnot, right?
Indeed.
And so she was listening to Macklemore the other day.
Oh, nice.
You know what I'm saying? So
get down on some Macklemore.
So I want to talk about that for a minute because I was into Macklemore. Like I got into him like in junior high. When he was like starting out,
deep underground,
right?
Yes,
like still making his own shit, right? And like I didn't, I was into him before. I'm just gonna toot my own horn for a minute. I was totally into him before like other kids in school were into him. Like way before fucking thrift shop and like all that shit. Like that was later when I was in high school.
I think that's the same story with like Morgs and Jake too. They've been on that train for a long time.
Yeah, and then once he started doing that type of shit, like thrift shop and whatnot, I got really turned off to that and like that whole album and like signing like a big deal and stuff like that. I was like, you fucking sold out. Like your whole, and it's not like, and that only bothered me because I don't generally have a problem with like someone signing a big deal. Like I have a problem with this because your whole fucking thing was not signing a big deal and like being independent and making your own shit. And then you're like, but I've been doing that for long enough. I want to sign a big deal now. Like,
oh yeah,
your whole like
a whole song on that album like about not signing a big deal.
You made like 3 albums about how you're being independent and now you're not going to be independent anymore. Like you fucking sold out, bro. And now you're just... Yeah, I was really not a fan of that. And so I've had a hard time since then with him just, I'm not like, I can't believe he's fucking making music, but like, I just like getting down on him. Like, I just like, you sold out and your whole thing was not selling out. And like, why would you do that? Like, it felt very inauthentic to me and I had a real problem with it.
Well, I get it though. I really do get it.
I understand the man wants his money, but fuck.
Well, that, and even in the time that he was coming up, it's not the same as it was today for sure.
Right.
It's black and white compared to what it was even back then, which wasn't that long ago. And for him to join on to, some big fucking contract or whatever. And I'm going to admit ignorance in a lot of this because I didn't really jump on the Macklemore train until the heist came out. But I can understand it because not only do you get the money with that, but now you're reaching an entire a huger audience, a much bigger audience, and now your stuff is it's a little bit more mainstream, and it's got a different sound to it and all this stuff. But I mean, I'm not going to hate on him for it. It's about
feel
time
like
he gets to kick back, relax, and reap the whirlwind of his. Reap what he sowed.
And I only talked shit for so long, Now it's just a thing of the past that it happened that I just don't really listen to his music. But I feel like it's like if you and I did this for like 10 years, and then we were actually making money and like doing shit like that. And I was like, I'm going to go take a job at CNN and I'm going to go and work there for the next couple of years. And then everything is going to be cool. And then maybe I'll like make a run for president or something. Like what? Like that's totally selling out. Like there would be, us being all independent fucking journalism and objective truth and whatever for 10 years. And then from CNN though, they're going to give me a fat fucking contract, 5 years and like $30 million just for me to fucking
you
be
can
a
wear a
pundit
suit
on CNN.
every day, and then sit there and blatantly lie to America.
People would judge me for that. They would be like, this guy's a piece of shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, this guy's a fucking hack, and I'm over it.
No, I'd be sitting in the back going, dude, this is the long con. This is the long con.
He's coming back after this contract is over.
Yeah. Within a few years, me and him will be I'll be your Steve Bannon. I'll be the Steve Bannon to your Donald Trump, and we'll sit in the White House and we'll record the pod from there.
Yeah.
It'll be great. Right in the Oval Office.
Yeah.
I'll go with that all day, bro.
So I was listening to something the other day, and I don't want to, fucking trigger warning, but I was listening to the NPR Politics podcast the other day, and so I just want to ask you about something that confused me, and I want to see if maybe you can help me sort it out.
Was this the NPR Politics podcast?
The Politics podcast, yeah. And so this was, I think I wrote this down before we took our break, so it was like a month ago, right? So
it gets a little wild over there on that.
So it was one of the openings that they do where someone else does it, right? And this person said that they were a trans woman with a wife whose son is about to be born.
Yeah.
Did I ask you about this already?
No,
or
but
this
it's so out in my mind. Well, here we are.
And when I heard that, I was at work and I stopped and I said, what? I said because so a trans woman is a man transitioning to a woman, right?
I believe so.
Because I believe this person had like a more masculine voice, right?
Yes.
So it was a trans woman with a wife
who was pregnant,
whose son was about to be born.
Yes.
Right?
So in other words, it's genetically a man and a woman.
Which I suppose there is nothing. Those things aren't like contradictory necessarily, right?
No.
Like especially the way that it's laid out. But I guess it just caught me off guard because it would have to be something more like a more progressive description of that for it to not make sense, right?
Yes.
Like for it to be like, this is contradictory. Like, but because this person is like, no, like I'm a man who's transitioning to a woman and like I just happened to like have impregnated my wife, like such is the circumstance that we're in, right? So, but it thought it was interesting. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, at least, oh God, I can't believe I'm going to go there. At least they're not talking about getting their balls waxed.
And I didn't finish that episode of Ben Shapiro, so I don't know exactly what he's talking about. So what's
dude, it's everywhere. My God.
So what's the problem here? What's the controversy?
So there's a trans woman, which would be a biological man, in Canada who has. Do you want to take over this thing?
I just wanted to see what was up here. That's all.
Yeah, I can. I
just want to make sure.
Barely multitask right now.
What up, everybody?
No, you good. But yeah, it was a trans woman in Canada who apparently had wanted to go in for a bikini Brazilian wax or something like that, and I guess was trying to made the appointment or something like that, and then they refused her service because they do not perform waxing on male genitalia.
Oh,
and that was just a bigoted, terrible, transphobic, thing to happen.
Why would you want to wax your balls?
First of all, I don't understand that period. Why anybody would ever want to do that. But to assume that a waxing parlor, whatever you want to call them, that only does only provide services to genetic women because that's the tackle they're used to, dealing with. And it's the thing that they're trained to do. They're not trained to wax men's balls. And so if you are a trans woman that still has your male genitalia intact,
could be dangerous almost.
I would certainly imagine, especially if somebody doesn't know how to do it properly. That seems like a very delicate region to fuck with. And so anyways, this blew up, the whole controversy blew up, and this trans woman went around, started making the rounds on different interview shows and whatnot, and it was just a train wreck, man. It's one of those controversies to nowhere. Everybody gets all offended and then it just fades off because there's nothing to actually tackle here. It's just, okay, well, sorry, dude. Ma'am, they make home waxing kits. You could probably start there, or maybe go to some place that does male genitalia waxing that has experience there. But that led to a lot of great, Twitter memes were fantastic, and they still are in some ways, but a lot of retorts and wax my balls. Hashtag wax my balls.
Yeah.
It's been pretty fun. It's been pretty fun.
Do they not have the right to refuse service in Canada? Like, is there you not? Because I know, like, in America, you could be like, no, I reserve the right to refuse service to anybody, and fuck you, I'm not going to wax your balls. So is that not the same thing in Canada?
I think it's probably pretty similar, but they have that complication of, the Human Rights Council.
C-16 or whatever. Yeah.
And so there is a, civil or whatever that body, that
welcome again,
non-legislative body is. Yeah. They have to look at it, and they, will make some kind of fucking ruling on it, and who knows. But when it comes to like that social issue stuff, Canada's a whole nother battlefield, man.
So on this same tilt, let me ask you about this, right? Earlier this week, I was listening to Start Here, I think, and they were talking about...
Oh, yeah.
which is pretty good, right?
Pretty good. Yeah. Big fan.
So they were talking about Berkeley, California, and in Berkeley, they changed their... their city ordinance and stuff, right? So all of their laws no longer say he or she, they say they, right?
Gender neutral
vocabulary. Which is not like super uncommon, because if you read through Washington state laws, they say he, she, or they, which I don't think is meant to be progressive. I think it's just meant to be all encompassing. But in this particular instance in Berkeley, it is meant to be like progressive, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so because they didn't just change the laws, they also changed, like, a manhole cover is now like a maintenance hole cover. It's not a manhole cover anymore. Fraternities and sororities are not fraternities and sororities anymore. They're like collegiate Greek associations or something like that. Yep. So it's all this stuff that's, congressmen and women, that's not a thing anymore. Like, it's just like
Congress
whatever.
People.
So, which on its face, I think it's silly, right? It's a silly thing that it's like, whatever.
When you're going around changing the name of an inanimate object because it has a masculine tone to it, you can go find you could take a long drive off a short bridge, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Metaphorically.
Yeah. But the thing wild. that I actually liked about it, right? I think it was the way that it was broken down on
Start Here.
Yes, where they were saying that, like, the laws in itself, it would be more encompassing, right? Which I was like, well, that's good, because it could be closing a possible loophole where someone's like, oh, I don't identify as a he or she, I identify as a they. So this law doesn't apply to me because it says he or she. You know what I'm saying? And so their legal argument is like, this doesn't apply to me because it says he or she and not they. So
you really want to complicate the law? Just go hang out in Berkeley for a little while.
Do you know what I'm saying? So I was like, so that's good. Like, at least there's that, that there's that
if you're going to look at it, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's ridiculous. But in a progressive town like Berkeley, it kind of makes sense. Could be a lot worse in Berkeley, as far as I'm concerned.
What's up? Jordan's cousin Michael Barker's watching from the Czech Republic.
Oh, so, Joe!
What's up, Michael Barker? Thank you. My cousin Caleb is watching. Czech. What's up, everybody? You have a hat. I would drink a beer from the Czech Republic when Jordan and I went out for our anniversary. It was a Pilsner. It was really good. Yeah.
Dude, I've heard the Czech Republic is gorgeous.
Well, yeah. Michael Barker, is it beautiful where you're at? Please tell us.
Send us a pic on that Facebook, bro.
Yeah. So I was also listening to Ben Shapiro's been talking about the Apollo 11 podcast, right? Have you listened to any of that?
No.
So I listened to almost all of it, right? And I learned a lot of really interesting stuff, just like quirky things. And I thought this thing really moved me. And when I was telling Jordan about it, she was like, I'm confused but intrigued as to why this moved you, right? So Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong are the first men to walk on the moon, right? Neil Armstrong first, and then behind him, Buzz Aldrin. So Buzz Aldrin's the dude you see in the photo of the guy getting out of the landing craft because Neil Armstrong is taking the photo, right? Yeah. So while I'm listening to this, the narrator is talking about when they land, they're supposed to wait 6 hours before they get out and do their first moonwalk. And they're like, fuck that. Yeah. Like, we're not waiting 6 hours. So instead they wait 3 and they're just getting all their stuff together. Like, they wait as short a time as possible.
It's like, bitch, we're on the moon. Fuck off. I'm getting out there.
The first thing that Buzz Aldrin does when they land on the moon before they start doing shit, right after they shut down the craft and they're kicking, they're like, okay, well, like, whatever. So the first thing Buzz Aldrin does is he takes communion.
Interesting.
So the first liquid ever poured on another planet was wine that had been blessed, right? And when he's writing in his book about it, when he's writing about fucking landing on the moon, he says, I took communion when I got there because I couldn't think of a better way to celebrate our achievement than to thank God.
Wow.
And I was like, that is just the coolest fucking thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Like, he's like so devoted to his religion that this massive achievement of man, like this amazing leap, like you said, for mankind, that you have achieved all of these things is like not even about the things that man just did, but about the ability to have done it because of God, And I thought that was so fucking interesting. Like,
that is cool.
Like, you just went to another planet, dog. You went to another planet on a fucking rocket made by other dudes, and you're like, but God let us do this. And I was like, that's something else. Like, and I appreciate the shit out of that.
So I'm just going to go ahead and protect you here for 5 years in the future when Neil deGrasse Tyson first listen to this. The moon is not a planet, bro.
Right.
But I got you.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. I know and it's like a satellite or whatever the fuck. But
and I just, so much more respect to them because I think it would take a lot. It speaks volumes to his devotion, to his faith in whatever form he carries that faith in.
Yeah.
And to be able to step away and just to step away and step back from the true moment that you're at and take time to do that because you think it's important enough. I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I thought that was wild. I was really intrigued by that. I also learned that when they moved that lunar lander into the museum that it's at now in the Smithsonian, they had to reinforce it because the legs were not strong enough to support its weight on the Earth, only on the moon.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so they had to reinforce, rebuild part of the legs.
Because you're going for the lightest load possible.
Exactly.
And if you don't need the strongest metal to withstand the 1/3 gravity.
I think it's like 1/6 or something like that. Yeah.
Super light. Of course, you're going to go light on that. You're going to skip easy.
Right. It doesn't need to support itself on Earth, just on the moon, because it's only ever going to be on the moon. Yeah. And that the walls on that were as thin as like aluminum foil. Like the walls on the lunar lander. So in between you and the fucking vacuum of space is just fucking tinfoil.
I'm not okay with that.
Yeah.
There's something about that that's highly distressing.
And that's one of the reasons that an asteroid, even like a tiny one, is such a concern because it'll just pierce right through any of that shit.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
You won't even know it either half the time.
Yeah, and
it's traveling so fast.
The amount of room they had inside of the lunar lander was a closet that they stood in. And then they were supposed to sleep in there once they got to the moon. They're like, you guys need to sleep before you can walk on the moon. So one of them slept like almost upright, and then the other one kind of laid down like across him, and that's how they slept on the lunar lander.
Wow.
Wild. Tell you, it was super fucking interesting. It was wildly interesting.
Yeah, I've been kind of just stockpiling all that Apollo 11 stuff for future listening. So
we can turn it back to political because this year is the 50th anniversary of the moon landing, right?
Yeah.
And so there's been all kinds of different, podcasts and news stories and shit like that, right? But one that stood out to me was the one that The Daily did, right? And ended up just pissing me off, right? Because
I probably skipped over it. I'm not gonna lie.
And I'll tell you why, and then I'll tell. So this story was about how the first man to walk on the moon could have possibly been a black dude, but he got fucked over in this government, whatever, you know, and like the funding got pulled and he got moved around. And so he wasn't in line with this first group of astronauts that maybe he could have walked on the moon.
Yeah.
Right. So
systematic
super interesting, super interesting. And it's like how, like, what a weird stroke of events that's what happened. Maybe it's racist and maybe it's whatever. Right. But it's like, is it seriously to the point that we can enjoy fucking nothing without it having to be just tainted? Like, but don't forget, America hates black people and we fuck them over all the time. Like, I understand that it was the 60s and it was like civil rights and all that shit. But can we seriously not just take a fucking second to appreciate the fact that we put people on the goddamn moon? Like, why? Why is that not, like, because it wasn't done by a minority or a woman, it's not okay. You know, it's only cool once we fucking finally put a woman and a black guy up there. Like, that's the only time that it's okay. So fuck Neil Armstrong, let's watch fucking Hidden Figures or whatever. You know, like, I don't, why? Like, why is that not okay? Why is it not fucking cool that we put people on a fucking satellite? You know what I'm saying? Like, why does it need to be tainted by racial bias in America because it's so widespread? You know, like
it's bad times, bro. It's very strange times, in the words of Joe Rogan.
That we can't even, I'm sorry,
you can't talk about anything anymore impactful without somebody chiming up to be like, well, actually, it could have, it should have, whatever the bullshit is. Can we not just, like you said, step back, look big picture and go, wow, this was an amazing human achievement.
Right.
Period.
Yeah, it does. Right. It doesn't even have anything to do with like that America is the one that did it. You know, it's consequential that it happened to have ended the Cold War, right? Because at the time, like, nuclear tensions were so high that the only way to end it was with some type of technological race, right? And that's part of what this really cool podcast was about, was how this was like so closely related to the Cold War. And because so many nuclear arms were spread amongst the planet, like, this was the way to solve it, you know, and whoever got to the moon first, they're like, you are the superior technology, you win, you know? And so when Russia put someone in space first, America was like, fuck, like we're fucking, go, shit's bad, you know what I'm saying? Yep. And that's why they did all these insane tests and rushed it forward so hard, right?
That's why everybody needs to watch October Sky.
Consequential, right? So why is it not enough to just recognize, like, you know,
because there's got to be, I don't know. It's not okay to be proud anymore. You know, it really isn't.
Can't be proud of anything that America did, because at some point we were all guilty of something terrible.
And even,
you know?
I mean, you can even expand that out from there. It depends on what you're talking about. But I mean, if it has any kind of,
thank you for joining us, everybody,
real life effect in today's world in 2019, somebody is going to try to taint it with the, you know, under the eyes of intersectional politics. Yeah. And they're just going to ruin it. And they've done a really great job of that with this. So I think that's probably part of the reason I've been waiting on this Apollo 11 stuff, because I don't want to jump into that and have it tainted with all the current rhetoric around it. If people are talking shit right now, let's just wait till all that dies down, because it will. Right. And then I'll jump back into it.
Well, it's like, if it wasn't constantly fucking discussed all of the time, I would hardly never consider race. Like, like this fucking, how divisive it is. And maybe, I'm sure there's a whole slew of people that's like, hey, that's exactly what we have to talk about all the time, because you need to be aware of the fucking bias, you know, that's going on everywhere around you. Yeah. And I had talked about this with Guy, you know, like a long time ago. Like, I would never say that there is not, like, racial bias or, you know, discrimination and shit that happens in America. Like, that's not something that I would say, you know? But when we had that discussion, like let's talk about specific examples, you know, and discuss maybe it's happening in pocketed portions of America and not just widespread blanketed across the country that every state fucking hates black people and minorities. You know, like, I just don't. And I don't think that's like that's representative of America. No, you know,
it's not. It never is, because at least in today's day and age, I mean, when you're talking civil rights era, Jim Crow laws, all that stuff. Yes, that was obviously systematically racist.
Right.
You know, and it was this weird thing because it took so long. There was a period between the Civil War, Reconstruction, and Jim Crow.
Yeah.
There was a period in there where shit was kind of okay, depending on where you're at and all this, you know, and then all of a sudden it slid back down the, you know, that slippery slope, and next thing you know, we're dealing with Jim Crow.
This guy says Steve Burglar
said,
my Asian neighbor sneaks into my backyard and steals my tomatoes. This is America. Do you know this person?
I don't
It's
know.
okay if you don't. I'm just asking. That's wild as fuck.
It is. It's reminiscent
Let
of
me ask you this, Steve.
Story.
Let me fucking neighbors, right? That guy's white though, but if he was Asian, we'd have something to relate about. Steve, do you grow enough tomatoes that not that it's right, right? But do you grow enough tomatoes that it's okay? But not that it's not okay, because it's not like, it's never okay that someone's stealing your shit, you know? But like, do you have a few that you can sacrifice? Or it's like, this guy's really cutting into my bottom line of tomatoes here. Like, again, it doesn't matter.
I mean, for one, straight
he shouldn't be stealing your tomatoes.
Trespassing on your private property is not okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, man. I love that. It's kind of messed up. Somebody's coming in stealing your produce. That's not okay.
This. No.
It's kind of a dick move.
It's, you know, it's fucked up.
It'd be really funny. We live in the passive aggressive capital of the world. It'd be really funny. Maybe post up a little sign and be like, I know you've been stealing my tomatoes. I would love to share my tomatoes with you. Maybe just come ask me.
Yeah, if you ask me, I would give you some. That's
God, that would be
to post a sign on whatever your tomatoes are in. If they're in a raised bed or something, that says, if you ask, I'll give you some. No,
I love America.
I agree. That's fucked up. Because I don't think that him being Asian really has anything to do with him stealing your tomatoes. I think it's really just that he's a dick and he happens to be Asian, you know? But
yeah, I don't know about that situation.
Yeah, because I know a lot of Asian people and they don't like just tend to be, but I'll tell you what, this one time Trenton,
it's not like a typical stereotype.
No, I don't think so. This one time my best friend Trenton was at my house and he was getting ready to leave. Been there for hours, getting ready to leave, and he put on his jacket and a whole pocket full of flossers threw out, like little plastic ones with the little piece of floss. A whole pocket full of them fell out, right? And I was like, what are you doing, man? And he was like, I just needed flossers. And I'm like, so why would you not ask me and like just tell me that you need flossers? Like, why instead would you steal a whole handful of flossers? Like, I don't consider it stealing because we're best friends. Like, you take it if you need it, and I don't even use them. Like, you can have them all, you know. But why would you not say something? We've been best friends.
Advantage of the system.
We've been best friends for so long. Why would you not say something?
Oh God, I love people so much, man. We are so confusing.
Yeah,
we do some weird shit.
Steve.
And it really, I mean, it's the weird shit that people do, like essentially stealing a handful of floss and picks or stealing tomatoes out of your backyard. I mean, that's what makes life interesting.
That's a bold move that he goes into your backyard because the dude, at least like who brings his dog to shit in my yard, that's like the front part that's down by the street.
It's
you know,
not,
like he doesn't come up into my fenced yard that would be a whole nother fucking deal if he came into my fence for his dog to shit. Yeah. But that part of my yard is like down by the street, so I can at least, you know, people do it. But it's super bold that he comes into. Is he your
what if he's got a fenced yard?
Is he your back neighbor, like your yard's back up like this, or your next door neighbor that comes?
I was saying, there's a lot of variables we need to suss out here.
Yeah. Can you draw me a diagram of your neighborhood so I know like the level of egregiousness of this tomato thief? No, either way, like I said, I think it's very bold that he comes into your yard to steal your tomatoes. I think that's very interesting.
Yeah, dude. Like, what if I'm planning on making a big old batch of salsa or something? And like,
yeah.
That's only a few tomatoes, but it's going to add to my end product here. You
can't be cutting into the bottom line.
Yeah. I don't want to go down to the store and get some of them GMO tomatoes.
No, I'm trying to make some recreational salsa and like give it to my friends and shit. Like if you're going to make jam, you know, I'm jamming. And
recreational.
Yeah. Maybe it's not for commercial purposes, but it's for recreational purposes.
Well, yeah, I had a buddy of mine. He used to make a 5-gallon bucket batch of salsa every year.
Shitload of salsa.
Yeah.
Dude.
He'd make that, and then I don't know how he'd divvy it up and stuff, but he'd always end up giving it out. And next thing you know, he never had any for himself. Some motherfuckers started to make 2 5-gallon buckets of salsa a year.
Damn.
But you got to double your produce yield.
Right.
You got to double up all your ingredients. It gets expensive, bro.
Well, I think with that, I guess what we should tell you guys, we're gonna have kind of a grab bag show today. We're gonna talk about some stuff that just happened over the last couple weeks. So we're gonna talk about the fight that happened between like the Democratic Party and the Squad and President Trump. So we're going to talk about all that because everyone is racist. And then we're going to talk about the Mueller hearing earlier this week. We're going to talk a little bit about Iran and, we're going to talk about some other things we got written down here. We've got all kinds of stuff going on.
Got a little Hong Kong news.
Yeah. Before I do this though, the last thing I wanted to say in the pre-show, did you know, I'm sure you didn't, so let me tell you.
Please.
The very first commissioner of the Major League Baseball.
Okay.
Right? His name was Kennesaw Mountain Landis. So there's that. I was in my car earlier this week during lunch and I was walking back in and I'm, making myself laugh because I think that I'm super funny. And so I thought of like a joke, that's like, I wish that polygamy was still acceptable, right? Not because I want to have a bunch of wives or a bunch of kids, because I don't want to take care of 9 kids.
No.
But I got this whole list of like fucked up names that I'm trying to hand off to kids that like no one will do, that I really am interested in like trying to. Kennesaw Mountain Landis, like that's a fucking great name, No, wait still, increase, like all these names that I like really want to give to a kid that Jordan would never accept, So that's the only reason. Like, because I don't want to take care of 9 kids.
No, dude. They can't actually be your kid.
But if I'm a polygamist, like, then I can maybe have, like I watched a show where they live in a mountain, like dug into a fucking mountain and all the different houses. Guy's like a giant house that's 4 houses that he just spends a different night in each part of the house, So that's what I need. That's
what you need.
And then just a couple of different families, all with crazy names spread about. And I would be so happy.
All right. Well, we'll get to work on figuring out how we do that.
So that's it. But Steve, I'd like to hear more about your neighbor because I'm really interested in the specifics of what's going on here. I hope you're still listening. I hope you don't feel like we made fun of you. That was
Definitely
not our intent. But it is an interesting problem. You have to admit it. So
and it's an inherently funny problem,
and maybe an inherently Asian issue, but I
don't know.
That bears some investigating. I'll have to see what the deal is. I'll ask Trenton to see what the deal is with that.
There you go. Ask the Asian guy.
Yeah. With that, I want to thank everyone again for joining us. This was a great pre-show hit. Everyone here was fantastic. It was a great time. Thank you for joining us on our Salt of the Streets Facebook. We have our Instagram at Salt of the Streets. We have our YouTube at Salt of the Streets where you can watch this later. We have our personal social medias. I'm at Salt of the Street on Twitter and at alpaca_Don on Instagram. He is at Big Bird Offie on both of those things. You can find everything at saltofthestreets.com. Thank you again. Episode 64. Look out for it on Monday. Peace out, everybody. Oh, shit. He kept commenting on it. No, I need them all. He also out there tilling the land, trying to take my job too. This is America. My black neighbor ain't stealing my tomatoes.
What is going on here?
Oh my God.